Dr. Gray stood at the viewport of his research station, watching the stars glitter against the dark void of space. After 20 years of studying alien ruins across the galaxy, he had grown used to disappointment. Every discovery had followed the same pattern: primitive structures, basic tools, and simple machines. Nothing that could challenge the Galactic Council's position as the most advanced civilization in known space. But today was different. His scanning equipment had picked up unusual energy readings from planet DR-2249, a dead world that no one had bothered to study before. The readings made no sense. They showed power signatures that shouldn't exist, patterns that didn't match any known civilization's technology. "Computer, run the scan again," he ordered, his three-fingered hand tapping nervously on the console. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the same impossible results. The underground chambers of DR-2249 contained energy sources that were still active after what appeared to be millions of years. Even the Council's best power cells couldn't last that long. Dr. Gray sent his findings to the Council immediately. Their response came within hours, and it was exactly what he had expected: dismissal. "These readings are clearly equipment malfunctions," the message read. "Planet DR-2249 has been classified as a dead world for centuries. Your request for an expedition is denied." But Dr. Gray had been an archaeologist too long to ignore his instincts. He pulled up the detailed scans on his main screen, studying the architectural patterns of the ruins. The structures didn't match any known species' building style, not the geometric precision of the Council's ancestors, nor the curved organic shapes of the extinct builders, or even the crystal-based architecture of the fallen Star Empire. These ruins followed their own rules, mixing styles in ways he had never seen before. Some sections seemed to defy gravity itself, while others contained rooms that were bigger on the inside than their outer dimensions suggested. "Computer, compare these patterns to all known architectural databases," he commanded. The computer worked for several minutes, its processors humming with effort. Finally, it displayed its results. "No match found in primary database. Searching restricted archives." Dr. Gray sat up straighter. The restricted archives. Those were sealed by Council order, containing information deemed too sensitive for general access. Warning: archive access restricted. Council authorization required. He hesitated for only a moment before entering his emergency override codes. The computer paused, then began displaying fragments of sealed records. What he saw made his heart stop. The patterns matched. Not perfectly, but enough to be certain. These ruins shared design elements with structures found on a backwater planet in the spiral arm of a minor galaxy, a planet the Council had dismissed as primitive and unimportant, a planet called Earth. "Computer, send emergency priority message to Council Member Brown. Authentication code Gray Alpha 79. The computer beeped in acknowledgement. Within minutes, his communication screen lit up with Council Member Brown's concerned face. "This better be important," Gray Brown said, his scaled face showing annoyance. "Sir, I know why the Council sealed those archives," Dr. Gray said, his voice steady despite his racing hearts. "The ruins on DR-2249. They're human in origin." Brown's face paled, his scales shifting from green to gray. "That's impossible. Humans never achieved spaceflight. They died out on their world before reaching the stars." "Then explain these," Dr. Gray said, transmitting his scans. "The energy readings, the architectural patterns, the advanced materials. We've been wrong about them all along." There was a long silence as Brown studied the data. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm authorizing your expedition. Full funding, best equipment, whatever you need. But Gray, be careful what you write in your reports. Some truths could shake the foundations of our society." As Dr. Gray began preparing for the expedition, he couldn't help but wonder, what else had the Council been wrong about? And more importantly, what had the humans achieved before they vanished from the galaxy? The answers he suspected would change everything. The research ship Discovery dropped out of faster-than-light travel near planet DR 2249. Its dark surface looked like a black pearl against the stars, with faint lines glowing in patterns across its surface, lines that shouldn't be there on a dead world. Dr. Gray stood on the bridge with his newly assembled team. Captain Stone, a veteran of deep space missions, guided the ship with steady hands. Her gray skin reflected the starlight as she worked the controls. Next to her, Professor Reed adjusted his scanning equipment, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the readings. Director White, the council observer, watched them all with poorly hidden doubt. "Remembered," she said, her voice sharp. "We're here to prove these readings are equipment errors, nothing more." Dr. Gray knew better. In the 2 weeks since his discovery, the energy signatures had grown stronger, as if something down there was waking up. "Beginning descent," Captain Stone announced. The ship broke through the planet's thin atmosphere, flying over an endless landscape of ruins. What they saw made even Director White fall silent. Huge buildings rose from the ground like mountains of metal and strange crystal, their surfaces covered in flowing lines that pulsed with soft light. Some structures twisted impossibly in the air, forming shapes that hurt to look at. Others seemed to fade in and out of existence, like ghosts made of steel and glass. "This is wrong," Director White whispered. "No primitive species could build this. The humans were nothing. They barely made it to their own moon before they died out." Professor Reed's instruments began beeping wildly. "These readings, the technology level here is beyond our scale. The energy patterns suggest these buildings are still functioning after millions of years." They landed in a clear area surrounded by towering structures. Dr. Gray led the team out in their environmental suits, though scans showed the air was breathable. The ground under their feet hummed with hidden power. "Look at this," Captain Stone called out, pointing at a wall. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing softly. As they watched, the symbols began to change, rearranging themselves. "It's reacting to our presence," Professor Reed said, his voice filled with wonder. "The whole city is alive." Dr. Gray approached the wall carefully. The symbols continued to shift until they formed patterns he recognized, numbers and letters in ancient human writing. His translation device began working automatically. "Welcome, visitors," he read aloud. "Security protocols detecting non-human life forms. Initiating first contact protocols." A beam of light shot from the wall, scanning each of them. Director White tried to step back, but Captain Stone held her in place. "If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already," she said calmly. The scan completed, and a doorway appeared in the wall, opening into a vast hall filled with soft, blue light. Inside, they could see rows of strange machines, still pristine after countless years. "Impossible," Director White breathed. "The Council's records say humans never achieved this level of technology. These must be ruins from some other species." But Dr. Gray had already stepped through the doorway. His scanner showed him what the others couldn't yet see. These machines weren't just advanced, they were beyond anything the Council had ever imagined. Some seemed to bend space itself, while others appeared to be gateways to somewhere else. "Professor Reed," he called out, "can you date these structures?" Reed consulted his instruments, then checked them again in disbelief. "According to these readings, these ruins are at least 50 million years old. That's 40 million years before the Council's ancestors even evolved." Director White shook her head. No, I won't believe it. Humans were primitive. The Council." She fell silent as a hologram flickered to life in the center of the hall. A figure began to take shape, a being that looked exactly like the ancient images of humans they had all dismissed as a primitive species. The hologram smiled at them and spoke in a voice that seemed to echo through time itself. "Welcome to Archive Station Earth 7. Please state the nature of your historical inquiry." Dr. Gray's hands trembled as he realized what they had found. This wasn't just a ruin. This was a library of human knowledge, left behind by a civilization that had mastered powers the Council couldn't even dream of. And it was still working, waiting for someone worthy to discover its secrets. The hologram of the human stood before them, its presence filling the ancient hall with a sense of impossible history. Dr. Gray stepped forward, his scientific training battling with his awe. We request information about human civilization," he said, his voice shaking slightly. The hologram nodded. Access granted. Beginning historical overview. The air around them shimmered, and suddenly they weren't in the hall anymore. They stood in space, surrounded by stars and galaxies. Director White grabbed Captain Stone's arm. "It's a projection system," Captain Stone assured her. "We haven't moved." "Observe," the hologram said. Points of light began to glow across the galaxy map. These were human colonies 50 million years ago. Our civilization spanned not just this galaxy, but hundreds of others. Professor Reed counted the lights, his 4 eyes widening. "There are millions of colonies shown here." The scene changed. They now stood in what looked like an ancient human city. Flying vehicles moved between buildings that reached into the clouds. People walked the streets alongside machines that seemed alive. "Your own civilization," the hologram continued, "what you call the Galactic Council, exists within what we designated as the development zone, a region of space set aside for young species to grow without interference." Director White's face turned pale. "That's not possible. We are the most advanced civilization in known space. Our records, your records," the hologram interrupted, "are incomplete." Deliberately so. New images appeared. They showed human ships moving stars like pieces on a game board. Other scenes displayed humans creating new planets, taming black holes for power, and building structures that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Dr. Gray's recording devices captured everything, though he wondered if anyone would believe what they were seeing. "What happened to your civilization?" he asked. "Why did you leave?" The hologram's expression became thoughtful. "We didn't leave. We evolved. Physical form became limiting." The image showed humans transforming into beings of pure energy, ascending to a higher plane of existence. "But before we transcended, we left these archives, waiting for species like yours to find them when you were ready." Professor Reed was frantically checking his instruments. "The technology they're showing us, it breaks half the laws of physics we know." "No," the hologram corrected gently. "Your understanding of physics is simply incomplete. Let me show you." A complex diagram appeared in the air. It showed energy patterns and mathematical formulas that made Dr. Gray's head spin. But among them, he recognized something. "These energy patterns, they're the same ones the Council uses in our fastest ships." "Correct," the hologram said. "Your faster-than-light drives are based on a simplified version of human technology, discovered in ruins like this one. But you've barely scratched the surface of what's possible." Director White had been growing more agitated with each revelation. Now she stepped forward, her voice harsh. "This is classified information. By Council law, I'm ordering this facility sealed. No one must know." But she stopped as the hologram turned to face her. "You misunderstand, Director. This facility doesn't recognize Council authority. It was built to share knowledge, not hide it." The hologram waved its hand, and data began flowing into their personal devices. Star maps, technical diagrams, historical records. The truth about humanity's past pouring out like a flood. "The Council has found our ruins before," the hologram said. "They've hidden the truth, fearing it would weaken their authority. But knowledge cannot be contained forever." Dr. Gray looked at his team. Captain Stone stood tall, her eyes bright with excitement at the possibilities before them. Professor Reed was already lost in studying the technical data. And Director White, she had sat down on a nearby step, her face in her hands. "There's more," the hologram said. "Much more. And now that this facility is active, others will awaken across the galaxy. The truth about humanity's past will be known. Dr. Gray felt a shiver run down his spine. This wasn't just a discovery anymore. This was a beginning. The Council's comfortable lies about being the height of civilization were about to crumble. And somewhere out there, the ascended humans were watching, waiting to see what their successors would do with the truth. "Show us more," Dr. Gray said to the hologram, ignoring Director White's protests. They had been in the facility for 6 hours, but it felt like minutes. Each revelation was bigger than the last. The hologram led them deeper into the archive. The walls shifted around them, creating new pathways that shouldn't have been possible in normal space. Professor Reed's instruments showed they had walked only 100 meters, but somehow they were now kilometers below the surface. "This is the main library," the hologram announced as they entered a vast chamber that seemed to stretch forever in all directions. Streams of light flowed through the air, carrying data between crystal pillars that reached into darkness above and below. Each pillar contains the knowledge of an entire field of human science, the hologram explained. Physics, biology, astronomy, dimensional engineering. Captain Stone walked up to the nearest pillar and touched it. A burst of information flooded her personal device. This is incredible," she whispered. They had ships that could cross galaxies in days. Ships powered by folded space itself. Professor Reed was studying another pillar, all 4 of his eyes glowing with excitement. Their energy technology. They didn't just harness stars. They could create and destroy them at will. They built Dyson spheres like we build houses. Dr. Gray moved from pillar to pillar, his heart's pounding. Each touch revealed new wonders. Humans hadn't just mastered space travel. They had conquered death itself, learned to copy consciousness, created artificial worlds that defied imagination. But Director White wasn't done fighting. "This has to be a trick," she insisted. "Some advanced race trying to destabilize the Council by making up stories about humans." The hologram turned to her. "You fear this truth because you've built your civilization on a lie. Show them, Dr. Gray. Show them what your scans found in the restricted archives." Dr. Gray hesitated, then pulled up the files he'd discovered. The Council. They found human ruins before. Many times. But they've hidden them, destroyed records, sealed off entire planets. Because the Council's power comes from human technology, Professor Reed realized, looking up from his pillar, everything they claim to have invented. Their ships, their energy systems, their computers, they found it all in ruins like this. The hologram nodded. "Your Council didn't achieve their position through advancement, but by finding and controlling access to human artifacts. They've kept younger races dependent on them for technology they themselves barely understand." Captain Stone had been quiet, studying the star maps. Now she spoke up. "These human colonies, some of them are inside Council space, on worlds the Council claims were never inhabited." "Correct," the hologram said. "Your own homeworlds were once human colonies. The ruins lie beneath your cities, waiting to be found. Some of your own ancestors were research subjects, part of human studies on developing species." The chamber suddenly filled with new images, familiar planets with layers peeled away to show vast complexes of human ruins beneath, ancient laboratories where humans had gently guided the evolution of younger races, hidden archives waiting on 1,000 worlds. Director White stood up suddenly. "Enough. If this gets out, there will be chaos. Every race will start digging up their planets, looking for human ruins. The Council's authority will be destroyed. Perhaps it should be," Captain Stone said quietly. "If they've been lying to us all this time." Professor Reed was still downloading data, his hands shaking with excitement. "The technical specifications in here, any race that finds them could jump ahead thousands of years in development. The Council's monopoly on advanced technology would be over." The hologram's light pulsed gently. "That is the purpose of these archives, to share knowledge when the time is right. And now, as more facilities awaken across the galaxy, that time has come." Dr. Gray looked at his team, then at the endless library around them. They had come seeking answers about an ancient civilization. Instead, they had found the truth about their own civilization, and a choice. The question, the hologram said, is not whether this knowledge will spread. It is whether you will help guide its release, or try in vain to stop it. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of flowing data, as each of them faced the weight of that choice. Director White waited until the others were distracted by the library's wonders. Then she moved quietly to the corner, activating her private communication device. The encrypted channel connected directly to the council's highest chamber. But before she could speak, Captain Stone's voice rang out behind her. "Looking for help, Director?" White spun around. The entire team was watching her, along with the human hologram. She hadn't been as subtle as she thought. "You don't understand," White said, backing away. "The Council has contained this information for a reason. Do you know what happened the last time a species found a human archive?" The hologram answered before anyone else could. "You refer to the river people of System 89. They discovered a human archive 300 years ago." Dr. Gray stepped forward. "What happened to them?" Director White's face hardened. "They became dangerous, started building advanced technologies, refused to follow Council guidance. We had no choice." "No choice?" Captain Stone's voice was cold. "What did the Council do?" The hologram displayed a new image, a beautiful blue planet turning to ash under energy weapons. "The Council destroyed their world," it said. "Erased them from history, all to keep the secret of humanity's past." Professor Reed checked his data tablet. System 89. The Council records say it was destroyed by a natural disaster. There have been others. The hologram continued, showing more worlds, more disasters that weren't disasters at all. The Council has eliminated 17 species that discovered human ruins. They'd blamed solar flares, asteroid impacts, plague outbreaks. Director White raised her chin. "We preserve order. Knowledge like this, it destroys civilizations, creates chaos. We protect the galaxy by controlling it." "No," Dr. Gray said quietly. "You protect your power. Those species died because they threatened your authority, not because they were dangerous." White's communicator suddenly crackled to life. A stern voice filled the chamber. "Director White, your emergency signal was received. Is the site secured?" Before she could answer, Captain Stone stepped forward. "Wait, listen to this first." She played back a recording from her suit's memory, White's earlier words confessing to the Council's crimes. The communicator went silent. "Then, Director White, eliminate all witnesses. Deployment ships are already heading to your location. The site will be destroyed within 2 hours. Leave no evidence." White pulled out an energy weapon. "I'm sorry," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "But this is bigger than any of us." "You're right about that," Professor Reed said. He wasn't looking at her weapon. Instead, he pointed at his data screen, where signals were lighting up across the planet. "The archive. It's activating something." The ground rumbled. Through the crystal walls of the library, they could see huge shapes rising from the ground. Ancient machines waking from million-year slumbers. "Archive defense systems online," the hologram announced. "Hostile ships detected entering the system. Planetary shields activating." Director White fired her weapon at Dr. Gray, but the beam stopped in midair, caught in a shimmering field of energy. The hologram's voice was cold. "This facility's primary mission is to preserve and share knowledge. It will not allow itself or its visitors to be harmed." White's weapon flew from her hand, disassembled itself in midair, and clattered to the floor in pieces. Her communicator exploded in sparks. "The Council ships," Captain Stone reported, checking the facility's displays. "They're being held outside the system by some kind of barrier. We're reading energy signatures bigger than anything in recorded history." Professor Reed was frantically analyzing the data. "The whole planet is transforming. These aren't just ruins. This is a fully functional human defense station." Dr. Gray turned to the hologram. You knew this would happen. You let us find this place. Let the Council reveal their true nature." The hologram smiled. "Humanity left more than knowledge here. We left protection for those who would seek that knowledge honestly. The Council's time of hiding the truth is over." Through the crystal walls, they could see more structures rising, more systems coming online. The fake ruins were becoming a very real fortress, and somewhere in orbit, Council ships were about to learn they weren't the most powerful force in the galaxy after all. The ancient human fortress hummed with power as more systems activated. Director White sat in a corner, her shoulders slumped in defeat, while the others watched in awe as the hologram showed them what was happening above. A fleet of 50 Council warships hung frozen in space, caught in fields of golden energy that made their most powerful weapons look like children's toys. "Message incoming from Council Command," Captain Stone announced, reading from the facility's communication display. They're threatening to declare war on this entire sector." The hologram's light pulsed with what almost looked like amusement. Perhaps it's time to show them who they're really threatening. It waved a hand, and the chamber transformed around them. Suddenly, they were standing in what looked like a vast control room. Stars wheeled overhead, and streams of data flowed through the air like rivers of light. In the center, a new hologram appeared, but this one was different. "This," said their guide hologram, "is a direct transmission from the ascended humans." The new figure glowed with inner light, its form shifting between human and pure energy. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of millions of years of history. "People of the galaxy," it said, "we have watched and waited. We left behind our ruins, our archives, our knowledge, hoping you would grow wise enough to share it peacefully. The Council chose fear instead of wisdom, destruction instead of growth." Professor Reed's instruments were going crazy. The signal, it's being broadcast to every world in Council space, every computer, every communication device. Everyone is receiving this. The ascended human continued. "We guided your early development. We watched your first steps among the stars. The Council found our gifts and hoarded them, using them to control rather than help. That ends today." Director White finally spoke up. "You abandoned the galaxy, left your ruins for anyone to find. What did you expect would happen?" The figure turned to her. "We never abandoned anything. We have always been here, watching, waiting for the right moment. The ruins, the archives, they were tests. The Council failed. Others will do better." The chamber filled with new images, worlds throughout Council space where other archives were awakening. Somewhere, Dr. Gray knew, billions of beings were watching this, learning the truth about their history. "But why now?" Captain Stone asked. "Why reveal yourselves after hiding for so long?" "Because of you," their guide hologram answered. "Your team. You found our archive and chose truth over power, knowledge over control. You proved that the galaxy's younger races are ready." The ascended human's form grew brighter. "For too long, the Council has ruled through fear and stolen power. Today, we offer a choice to all species. Learn, grow, work together. The archives are open to all who seek knowledge with peaceful intent." Professor Reed was still monitoring the data streams. The archives, they're releasing different information to different worlds. Technical data, cultural histories, scientific knowledge, everything the Council kept hidden. "Knowledge should be shared, not hoarded," the ascended human said. "The Council used our technology without understanding its true purpose. Our faster-than-light drives weren't meant to just cross space, but to bring people together. Our energy systems weren't weapons, but tools to lift up developing worlds." Dr. Gray watched as the ascended being spread its arms, and the view expanded to show the entire galaxy. Countless points of light marked the locations of human archives, each now awakening, each ready to share its knowledge. To the Council, the beam's voice grew stern. "Your time of control is over." To everyone else, "Welcome to your true heritage. The stars were never meant to have rulers, only explorers. The Council ships in orbit began to retreat, their mighty weapons useless against technology they had never truly understood. Director White watched them go, knowing her world was changing forever. "What happens now?" Captain Stone asked softly. The ascended human smiled. Now the real story begins. The archives are awake. The truth is known. And we will be here, watching our younger siblings take their first real steps into the stars. The galaxy would never be the same. 1 month after the Great Revelation, Dr. Gray stood before the newly formed Galactic Assembly. The Grand Hall, once the seat of Council power, now hosted representatives from every known species. Where the Council's throne had stood, a simple holographic interface linked to all active human archives across space. "The changes have been extraordinary," he reported to the assembled beings. "In just 30 days, we've confirmed over 10,000 human archive sites. Each one is sharing knowledge based on each species' current development level." The hall's displays showed scenes from across the galaxy. On one world, people celebrated as clean energy systems eliminated pollution that had plagued them for centuries. On another, a species that had been confined to their system by Council restrictions now tested their first true faster-than-light ship. Professor Reed stepped forward next, his 4 eyes bright with excitement. "The technical advances are amazing, but what's more impressive is how the archives work together. They're not just giving us technology. They're teaching us how to use it wisely." Captain Stone, now leading the new exploration fleet, added her report. "We've already discovered 3 young civilizations the Council had been hiding from us. With the Archives' guidance, we're helping them join the galactic community properly." In the back of the hall, Director White sat with other former Council leaders. Their fine robes were gone, replaced by simple clothes. They were not prisoners. The Archives had insisted on forgiveness, but they would spend their lives helping repair the damage their lies had caused. "The human archives have changed everything," Dr. Gray continued. "But their greatest gift wasn't technology. It was truth. Every species now knows their real history. Every world can access the knowledge they need. The archives judge us not by our power, but by how we use what we learn." The holographic interface sparkled, and the familiar form of an ascended human appeared. The hall fell silent. "You have exceeded our hopes," the being said. "In 1 month, there has been no war, no attempt to weaponize our knowledge. Instead, we see cooperation, growth. Species that were enemies under Council rule now work together to solve common problems." Professor Reeb displayed new data. Disease rates down 60% across known space. Energy shortages eliminated on 89% of populated worlds. Faster-than-light communication networks linking all species, and this is just the beginning. The ascended human nodded, which is why we have decided to take the next step. We will now share knowledge of ascension itself. The hall erupted in shocked whispers. Dr. Gray's heart skipped a beat. "Not for now," the being clarified, causing some nervous laughter. "But as a goal, a destination, something for all species to work toward together over the next few thousand years. The archives will guide you, step by step." Captain Stone smiled. "So we're still students." "Always," the being said warmly. "As are we. The universe has many mysteries left to explore. Perhaps one day we'll explore them together." The human form gestured, and the hall's ceiling became transparent, showing the stars above. But now everyone saw them differently, not as distant lights, but as destinations. Each star might hold new wonders, new discoveries, new friends to meet. "The Council told us they ruled the stars," Dr. Gray said to the assembly. "The truth is, no one rules them. The stars belong to everyone who wants to learn, to grow, to explore." The ascended human's form began to fade. "This is your time now. We'll be watching, helping when needed, but the path forward is yours to choose. Make it a good one." As the being vanished, the hall filled with light. Each representative's personal device chimed, receiving the first data package about the path to ascension. It would take generations to fully understand. But that was the point. Some journeys were meant to be taken slowly, with wisdom and care. Dr. Gray looked at his team, at his friends. They had sought ruins and found a future instead. Above them, the stars beckoned, full of mysteries waiting to be solved. The council had thought they ruled the stars, but the stars had never needed rulers. They had only ever needed explorers. The end.